What's up, Title Tribe? This is Toilets of Titles. This is Friday night roundtable. Got a group of guys here, 5 of us. What do we call this? And what's a 5-sided octagon?
A pentagon.
Five-sided.
All right, so I am your Frito Bandito, and look, as always, like I said, group of guys here. I got my co-host, Mr. Will, on the side over here. Will, how you doing today, sir?
Doing fantastic, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. You excited about this weekend's games?
Oh, of course. Sunday 4:30. That's my time. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. White out.
All right. I might text you. I might just be blowing up your phone at that time. And
if I don't respond, you know why.
All right. I want to introduce another co-host of our show that is going to be joining us no matter what. I got Mr. David over here. David, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Sounds like me and Will are going to have about a 7.5, 8-hour window where we're not going to talk to each other because same thing at 1 o'clock. Leave me be.
Yep.
Man,
I get it.
You know what? I'm just realizing I'm the only one that ain't in the playoffs. What the heck is going on? All right. Right below me, I got my man, Mark. Mark, introduce yourself, man. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Fantasy playoffs starting. We got the real playoffs starting. We got everything ready to go.
Yes. And what's the best thing about football, fantasy football in general is, hey, it's all about gambling, right? And we got Mr. Iceman over here. Introduce yourself, sir, and tell us a little about what you're doing.
Hey guys, pleasure to be on. As you know, I've been on a few Toilets to Titles shows. I was on the Frankenstank one on Tuesday. Host of Playing with House Money, which goes out on Thursdays on the Toilets to Titles network. That's a show that I do myself and my co-host DJ Prue, and we talk about all of the upcoming Thursday night football normally, and the lines and some bets and what we're looking to do there. And into the playoffs, wild card weekend is a great time for betting. And as we talked about just before we came on air, it's becoming more and more now, more and more states opening up the legalized gambling where we can do prop bets and such. So a lot of people out there that are ready and willing to bet on this weekend, and we're just here and helping you guys out and telling you what to look for, what we like, what we're looking at. And it's not always about telling you what you should bet on and what's going to hit. It's just about telling you our process, what we're looking for, and with so many options nowadays about different books that you can go to, what you should be looking for at each one to really get the best value for whatever it is that you're betting on. So happy to be here and looking forward to chatting through all of the lines with you guys.
Well, once again, I appreciate everybody on that's joining the roundtable, but who I really appreciate even more than you guys, and I'm sorry to say this, it's all the people that's in the chat and everything. We got Pete in here. We got Mr. Jerry Bagshaw. Jerry, nice to see you, sir. And I got my man Duarte in the chat. Appreciate you guys. And as always, Pete, thank you for contributing to our trip to Canton. We're just going to keep on letting this build up and everything. I think Pete alone might fund our whole trip. And so I really do appreciate that, Pete. So
Pete's the man.
With that, hey, hit and subscribe button. Look, we're already past, what is it, 2,000? I want to say as far as
2,000 subscribers
and everything. Look, hit and subscribe, hit the like button. Look, support us. Come chat with us. And when you get done doing that, go hit the Gilded Chat. Come and join us there and everything. Because, look, we talk about this all the time and everything now. If you notice, it kind of died off a little bit and everything. But, look, offseason is going to be here after the playoffs and stuff like that. And, hey, man, that's where we really talk shop. So, before we get going, guys, look, I know David's a Steelers fan. Mark's a Rams fan. We got Will over here representing his Cowboys. I just want to make sure, Iceman, Kansas City is your team you support 100%, right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay. And as always, Frito Bandito, who represents his Raiders, we might talk a little bit about it and everything. Obviously, we're not in the playoffs, But what I can say is Super Bowls is in Las Vegas, so hey, we'll represent somehow.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So playoffs, fantasy football. We are here at Toilets to Titles. We are doing a playoff challenge. Hit any one of us up, Coach Chefs. Look, you pick one player. Once you use them, you burn them. Can't use them anymore. So you got to be real smart. You got to plan it out. Be kind of just kind of making sure you're making the right choices and stuff like that. You want to take advantage of the players that you think are going to be the teams that are losing, so they have those high gains. But then you kind of want to make sure you're picking the players and saving the players that are going to be in that Super Bowl, so you do have players to pick from and everything. So once again, this is the last night to get in. Anybody want to talk about, give a little bit more details about it, Will?
I don't have too much detail about it. I've been slacking because I've been working on a lot of projects with Toilets to Titles and Coach and Justin. I haven't been too much involved in that, just because we got the graphics, we're working on the website, we're working on some surprises for next season. I haven't been able to really focus down on it. It's probably going to be like a last minute thing for me.
All right, Mark, I know you're ready for this and everything. With that being said, let's lead into what we're going to do tonight. Mark, go ahead and talk about it.
So we just took a small portion of the lineup that Coach has set up for this contest. And what we're all going to do is we're going to take one player that we want to use this weekend. We're going to take one quarterback, 2 running backs, and 2 wide receivers. So I think, David, you had the quarterback. Why don't you start us off?
Yes,
breaking news.
I just got that same notification.
So yeah, I took Matthew Stafford. My theory here is I'm trying to either take teams who I think it's going to be a good game and they're only going to be in this week, so they won't be available next week, or teams who I think are going to win this week and be out next week because they're facing tougher opponents. So they're going to do well, win their game this week, and lose next week. I think Matthew Stafford and the Lions game, the Rams and Lions, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Probably my favorite game of the week, and I just like Matthew Stafford's weapons better with the injuries to some of the Lions in the last week of the season. So that's who I'm rolling my dice on this week.
All right, I'll jump in next with my running back. I'm going to take action from that same game. I'm taking Kyron Williams. Look, he's like CMC 2.0, or I mean, is he right there with him? I hope he's producing CMC numbers this first week. That way we could use the real CMC later on. So I'm going to take advantage of him this week. Look, that is going to be a high scoring game. I want to say if it's not the highest over under, it's the second one of the weekend and everything. So I do want to have players from that game and everything. So that's the reason why I'm taking Kyron Williams. I'm hoping he's having one of those 3 TD games that he had during the season and everything. So who got the next running back?
That's me. Yeah, same kind of thing. We've heard a lot of talk about the weather. I think both the Kansas City game and the Steelers-Bills game is going to be run heavy, obviously with the wind. So I'm taking the G for the same reason. I think the Bills win the game, but I think the G's going to, he's going to get 20 plus carries. Yeah, sorry, David. Najee, I think, is going to get 20 plus carries. He's been in good form. He's gone 100 yards the last 2 games of the season, 8 touchdowns on the year. So I definitely think he probably scores, and I think he definitely goes over his. I think his line's at 60 yards. He could easily have with 20 carries a 90, 100 plus yard game. So yeah, taking the G this week.
Nice pick. All right, receivers. Let's start out with Will.
Let me see. Can you see it? Nope, I have it hidden. Even though he's a Cowboy, I still think that a lot of people would agree with me. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, the chemistry between, and I've said this before, CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott have this like unprecedented chemistry. That Dak's throws to CD, you can tell there's just some kind of connection there, and he's gonna 100% just keep on this hot streak. He's going to just annihilate the Packers defense. I think he'll just walk all over them.
All right. See, look, CD's had they, You're saying they got a chemistry this year, like it's there and stuff like that. And he has been force fed the ball
Oh my
nonstop
God, it's
and
crazy.
everything. So
It's crazy.
Mark,
So Rich touched on it a little bit. Part of the strategy is you kind of want to get those guys who aren't going to last long in the playoffs but you want to get them in a good game. So that's where I'm going at receiver. I'm going with Mike Evans because I don't know if they're necessarily going to lose that game as bad as Philly has been, but their secondary is going to give up a lot of points. So even if Philadelphia ends up winning that game, Mike Evans is still going to score. So I'm going to take advantage of it now because I don't see many other spots in the playoffs where you're going to be able to take advantage of Tampa Bay.
all right. So for the 6 people that are in here right now, and for the people that are going to be listening, for the 500 view plus that we're going to be listening, if you're in, look, we just gave you some little tips, some little tricks on how to start out strong. We got at QB, Matthew Stafford. We have at running back, Kyron Williams, Najee Harris, and at receiver, we're giving you guys CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans, all having big games this week. Hey, one and done. So you want to get those players that are going to have those big numbers and stuff like that. Hey, they might have a high number this week. They might have a higher, if they move on, they might have, but look, you want to maximize what you can with those in those games that you want to have and everything. Okay. So look again, once again, playoffs, fantasy toilets of titles. This is our 4th year doing it. It's a lot of fun and everything. A lot of people, it gets real competitive towards the end as we're fighting to the top and everything. I know every year I'm doing it. I'm actually going back and looking at people and say, okay, what does he have to do to catch up to me? Or what do I got to do to catch up to? It's so much fun and everything. So, all right, topic of discussion for starting the show. Coaching carousel. There's been a lot of movement this week, guys, right?
A ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
David, I'm going to let you take this one over.
Yeah, all right. I guess I'll just go through what we know so far, and we'll see what everybody likes and dislikes from this week's news. So Bill Belichick is finally out of New England after 24 years. They hired Mayo right away because of a contract, like future contract or something that they stuck in his contract to make it so he was the successor. I found that one interesting. Vrabel's out after 6 seasons with the Titans. Pete Carroll's out and is going to be an advisor for Seattle. That's another weird one for me. We already know during the season the Panthers fired Frank Reich. I'm not sure if that was fair or not in one season, but we hash that out. Arthur Smith is out with the Falcons. I like your note there of free Bijan. I'd go as far as saying Bijan, Pitts, and London. Ron Rivera is out. We'll see if it's going to open the door for Eric Bieniemy or not. Antonio Pierce has not been offered the starting job yet for the Raiders. He is interviewing with multiple teams. And when we go to college, the legend Nick Saban is out. And I don't know how to say his name. Kalen DeBoer.
It's Kalen DeBoer.
There you go. The head coach of Alabama now. He's leaving Washington, which I think is crazy. I think it's all about money. I was talking about this one with Coach earlier. It's the SEC drawing him in with money. He's leaving us a squad that he just took to the national championship, and he's bouncing for money. That the SEC is like the Yankees of the NCAA.
All right, so look, moving parts. It's like this every year. Maybe has this probably been more years or around the same? What's your guys' thoughts?
So I feel like it's not more per se. It's just quicker. And there's more big names this year. Pete Carroll, Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick. Those are 3 guys. 2 of them have been with their squads for over a decade. 2 decades for Bill Belichick. Like they've been in place for a while now. So it'll be interesting to see where everybody ends up. A lot of people thought Mike Vrabel was going to go to the Patriots. I didn't like the fit. I felt like he was just another kind of in the same mold as Belichick, and they need to break out of that. They need to do something different. As much as I hate to say it, well, not that much because I'm a Michigan fan, but Tom Brady, it's looking more and more like he was the magic there, and Belichick just rode his coattails.
Yeah,
4 years of garbage after Brady left.
Look, that's going to be probably it goes into the legacy of Bill and everything. Okay, look, great coach and everything. But how much of Brady was the impact of that and everything? And that's I don't care what anybody says. That's gonna be the anytime you talk about the Patriots dynasty in that time frame and stuff like that. Those two are always gonna be commingling together. And was it because of Brady? Was it because of Bill? Look, we all know what Brady did after he left New England and stuff, and what has Bill done for the team since then too. One thing I want to bring up, and I want to kind of get some inputs on this, is Pete Carroll stepping away and stuff like that. Hey, he's still going to be within the organization and everything. How does that affect a head coach coming in, and does that keep them from wanting to be a head coach, Mark?
I don't know if it necessarily impacts the head coach, because do we really know how much influence Pete Carroll is going to have on decisions there? Is it more of you've been good to the organization, we're going to keep you on the payroll, keep you on there? But I don't think it's going to affect the head coach at all.
Ice, any opinions on this?
Not so much an opinion on how it's going to affect the Seahawks. This reminds me of a lot of what happens in soccer. So in soccer, they've done this before in England and in the Premier League, where you have a manager of a team, which is your head coach comparison. And then instead, when they hire a new manager, a new head coach, they do the same thing. And they've elevated a couple of these guys to a position in soccer, which is funny. They call it the director of football. So it's a similar thing. And that honestly in soccer hasn't ever really gone that well for the reasons that you're saying. There's that element always from the new head coach of always looking over their shoulder. How much influence is he really going to have is really the question. And I think you won't know the answer until you get to the preseason and we start to see actually what's happening, who the new head coach is, quite how much, influence they have on the team. And hey, I think you just wait to see. And I think, Seahawks fans that, talk about and have glowing references of what Pete Carroll's done for the organization over the last decade are probably not too concerned and probably like the fact that he's still in there as an advisor. Like I say, I think it really does come down to how much of an influence he has in that role. Is it just a role by name and he's not in the building every day and can let the new head coach come in and put his stamp on it? Or is Pete Carroll going to be? Because every day Pete Carroll is there, I think that has potentially, in my opinion, a negative impact for the players. The players that have played for Pete for a long time, that have come up playing for him, are always looking to him every time he comes in the room, not their focus on the head coach, whoever that may be. So I really do think it comes down to how much he is there and what his role actually is.
So you kind of hit on there, and I want to bring that up is, look, it's the players. I mean, ever since he retired or stepped away and everything, look, you've been hearing all these stories from former players, current players and stuff like that, how much he is loved and everything and stuff like that. So you kind of hit on the nail. When that coach is in there, that next coach, hey, and the player doesn't, he kind of looks, hey, coach, does that happen with grown men in the NFL? Hell yeah, it does. I believe it does and stuff like 100%. That. If they're going to be there, give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, Ice took the words right out of my mouth. I think it's definitely going to have a negative impact depending on whatever his job and his job responsibilities are. If he's going to, I don't foresee him on the sidelines during game time, but if he does, that would be very negative. But when he walks into the training facility, I definitely think this is going to put more pressure on the new coach, depending on who it is and how much experience they do have, of course. But I definitely think that his position as an advisor, given we know very little about what that entails, I think it will have more of a negative impact on the team, and you won't see Pete Carroll with the organization very long after this. Did he step away, or did they just mutually part ways? Or
it wasn't even mutual. Pete Carroll was upset about this. It was a surprise.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And I kind of feel like he feels a little disrespected by it. He's still fired up. He's the most ornery old guy I've ever seen. Like, he's fired up all the time. He's got just as much energy as these young guys. When they signed DK Metcalf, who I don't know if you guys know, but he's like marbled like a bronze god. Pete Carroll took his shirt off in the room too, and when he met him, like, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
So you're
like,
saying he looks like me?
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I see it going one of two ways, and neither of them work. I see either Pete Carroll is going to force his way back in and become the coach because the organization is going to realize those players look to him like he's the daddy of the Seahawks right now. They love him. Or he's going to force his way out and be and coach somewhere else. I don't see any way that it works with him being there unless their new head coach is one of his proteges who he's already brought along, who will kind of benefit from having Pete there.
Yeah.
Okay. So next one I want to jump in because this one right here, it's Frank Wright, man, with the Panthers. Look, they bring him in. Hey, you go get your QB. We're going to make these trades to go get him and stuff like that. And they fire him after the first year. Not only is this, to me, I don't feel this is fair for him, but it's also not fair for Bryce Young and everything because, to me, this one is probably the ugliest. If I want to talk about all these, this is probably the ugliest one of them all. Iceman, give me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It kind of does, ring a little bit of, you've got to give someone the time to come in and gel. But there's also the flip side of this. Again, it's another one of those that you're not going to know until 6 months, 8 months down the line, because if he stayed and they have another season where it goes kind of the same, then you're going to look to the general manager and say, well, you should have done this 6 months ago. So if they've seen enough that really they think, oh, hey, we did make a mistake, and they saw enough last season to really think that there's no way that he can turn this around, then I don't necessarily think it's the wrong decision. I think we never hear, you never get the full story, right, as to what you see and what goes on behind closed doors. But it really comes down to how much you put faith in the GM and who it is that's making these decisions, because they are a business at the end of the day. They are a business, and the same would happen in any other business. Like if you're not doing your job and there's no potential, you can't even start to show that you're turning things around or what you're going to do to make things change, then you kind of, the longer you leave it, the worse it becomes, the worse position you put your team in if you let him go another season and they do the same thing again. So, yeah.
All right, David. I kind of want to stay here for a minute. Is it Frank's fault or is it Bryce Young's fault?
I want to say it's neither. It's the organization's fault for thinking that. I understand why they brought in Frank. He's considered a quarterback whisperer, a quarterback coach. But if anybody on that roster thought that they were a quarterback away from competing, they were crazy. Bringing him in and expecting them to win right away, it just wasn't going to happen. And you need to give him a little bit of time. Unfortunately, I saw a thing today about the longest tenured coaches in the NFL now that Bill is gone and Pete, and it's Tomlin and Harbaugh, and then it's a stiff fall off to like 5 years or something. This is a win now league. It's not like before where, most organizations aren't like the Steelers. We've had 3 coaches since 1970. Most coaches, if you don't succeed in the NFL now, you're gone quick. So it's an unfair thing, I think, but it's to be expected these days, unfortunately. Because in the end, it is a money business.
All right. So, Mark, I'm going to lead into you on this next part that I'm going to talk about is David says it's crazy to think that they were a QB away from being successful. Well, did the Titans not just do that? I mean, not Titans. I'm sorry, Texans. I apologize.
You're muted.
No. Oh.
You're muted,
Mark,
Mark.
you're muted.
Sorry about that. No, I think you're right there. But I also feel like the Texans added a lot to that team outside of just CJ Stroud. Like that defense is pretty solid. I think Carolina was a lot further away than the Texans were before getting Stroud. I also think, though, like David said, from the organization standpoint, I think it's a failure because also you got to look at potential new coaching candidates coming in. Who's going to want to go coach there? How many coaches have they had in the past 4 years? They had a new one every year, I think, since.
Yeah, I want to say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's in the back of mind of new coaching candidates' heads. Like, do I really want to take this job? Are they going to give me the time it takes to rebuild this team?
All right. So we have all these openings for head coaches and everything. Will, you guys got a nice defensive coordinator over there playing for the coaching the Cowboys. Is he leaving and going to any of these teams?
I heard about this news, like that he was interviewing with other teams last night, and I'm trying to look into it, and there's not really too much information. I saw just before the show started that Micah Parsons, I'm wearing his jersey, he said that if DQ goes anywhere, he wants to go with him. So based solely upon that information, absolutely not. I don't want him going anywhere. I love DQ. I've always loved DQ. I understand why teams would want him. I mean, he's good. I hope as a Cowboy fan that he doesn't go anywhere, but I see as a football fan that he probably will.
All right, David, go ahead.
I'd just like to put in, I believe that those have to be rumors. I don't think they're allowed to tamper with coaches who are still in the playoffs. They're not allowed to interview them or do anything. They have to wait until they're eliminated before they can approach them. He's definitely one of the top coordinators who's going to get interviews, though.
Yep.
The Cowboys have been solid defensively, for a little while now. So,
Okay, so look, I don't see Ron Rivera, and I might be wrong. You guys speak up if I'm wrong or anything. I don't see him getting another opportunity right away. I think he's going to take a break away. He might not even coach again for a little bit and everything. Vrabel, Belichick, who else on this list? Obviously, we know what Pete Carroll's doing and stuff like that. Well, let's just go those two right there. Do they get a job as a head coach this upcoming season with any of these teams or another team? Mark?
I personally think Vrabel gets a job somewhere. I don't see how he doesn't. Like, I didn't know about the contract that Mayo had in there, the incentives for him to build up to a coach. But immediately when Belichick was fired, I thought Vrabel was going there. I don't feel like the Titans' mistakes were coaching. I just feel it was lack of talent. I feel like somebody's got to hire him.
Okay. You know what? That's the subject I wanted to hit. Hey, him having in a contract to be the successor. Okay, this is. I'm surprised a lot that people ain't talking about as much. Is this a new way of cheating to kind of get ahead of the game and stuff like that? Because now they don't have to interview anybody else, and they're just going with him and everything, and not giving anybody an opportunity to interview for the New England Patriots. David, your thoughts on that?
Oh, go on.
So I didn't know Jared, Mayo personally. I hadn't seen him. I didn't know anything about him. But my first thought was, especially with all of the new requirements of, interviewing at a minimum, certain amount of minority coaches. Now, he's African American, but I didn't know that, that they could skip that. Because that's a solid thing now. They have to give a certain amount of interviews to minority, women, Spanish, Asian, whatever, minority candidates, and they skipped right over all of that. Now, I don't know if it's because he's a minority that allowed them to do that or what, but I think it's unfair. I think they need to give, several people interviews, at least go due process. You know what I mean?
Iceman, go ahead.
I was going to say, it comes back to the business aspect, right? Like in any other business, you have succession planning. And if Robert Kraft has seen enough in Jared Mayo since 2019 as to what he brings to the side and what he's done with the linebackers, he's been linebacker coach for a few years, and he thinks that one, you're learning from Bill Belichick, right? Like you're behind one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest NFL coach of all time. So who better to learn from over the last 5 years? And yeah, okay, Belichick maybe has fallen off in that time, but still, the time spent together has got to mean something. And if Kraft knows that, this guy now knows what the organization expects, he knows what Kraft expects, like it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective, right? To have that in place and to be able to follow that through. If there is underlying reasons why Kraft has wanted to go down that road, as to what David's just said, and not have to go through this rigorous process of hiring or interviewing, X amount of people, then that might have been a reason why he started to look at it. But I do think from like you say, if this was any other business and it was a CEO of a corporation stepping down, it makes sense for like your CFO or someone like that to step up and take over rather than bringing someone completely new to the organization in. So I don't mind it from that business perspective. The players already know him. He's already been around the current side. So there is all of that continuity that you get. But again, there's a big difference between being linebacker coach or a defensive coordinator and now stepping up, certainly for a team like the New England Patriots, following in the footsteps of Bill Belichick. So yeah, I mean, it's big shoes to fill, obviously, but Kraft has been around a long time and you would think knows what he's doing. So
we're going to get to Duarte's question here. I just wanted to kind of get some input from Mark and Will on this same subject. Will, you want to add to this at all?
To Duarte's question?
No, what we're talking about, the way Mayo was brought in and everything.
Iceman touched on it. It is a business at the end of the day, and Kraft had this already planned. There's no way that this all goes down with your coach who was with you for 24 years, and you just, the next day or so, you have somebody already. He had this all planned. And do I think it's a form of cheating? No, I don't, because everybody knows him, and he was like, look, it's time to shake things up. He knows that the era, Brady's gone, so Belichick is maybe at 50%, because people will always correlate Brady to Belichick. I think that it being so quick, them announcing it so quick is a little odd to me. But I think that being that he's already had this planned and he's just keeping it behind the scenes, because Belichick leaving has been in the news for how long now? Possibly parting ways, this, that, and the other. Something must have been thrown out there to get the media, really buzzing about it. And then Kraft just goes and just, does it. I'm indifferent on this one. I mean,
okay.
Everybody
Mark,
knows him.
Hey, real quick, Mark, before I want to one off with you on this one, okay? Because they had this in session, did they snake bite themselves by not being able to bring in Vrabel because of this situation?
They might have, very well could have, but I gotta think that they probably had that in the back of their mind if they could get Vrabel down the line before they gave him this incentive in the contract. The only counter I'll bring up to it is if you're truly done with the Belichick era, are you really moving on and making something different here? Because he came up under Belichick. So is it just continuing of the old?
No, I get it. I get it 100%. It just, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm probably not the only one, but man, I mean, there was no inkling news of Mayo. I mean, this whole situation with Mayo and everything, unless I totally missed something. I mean, I was like, I was talking in other chats. I was like, dude, man, this teed it up for Vrabel to step in, and maybe he wasn't the right fit or anything like that. But on the same token, man, all arrows were kind of pointing that, and then all of a sudden this Mayo news breaks, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is different. And are other teams going to go this same route now going down the road,
So Mayo's been with the organization, I think, since 08, because he was a player from 08 to 15 with the Patriots. And I think what I read was that this was originally in his contract to be executed at the end of the 2024 season, and they moved it up because of how bad the Patriots did this year. I haven't heard anything about Belichick complaining about it. I want to say Belichick was ready to move on too, and so they moved up the timeline for it. But this is, the fact that they even put it in his contract, this was their plan for a while now.
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to end the coaching discussion with Duarte's message in the chat. Which coach in the playoffs is possible to be fired? To me, there's multiple, so I'm going to go ahead and start with Mark on this one. Who are you thinking of?
Well, I think everybody's leaning towards Sirianni, but I would ask Will, with as good of a season as Dallas has had, if they lose to Green Bay in the first round, do you think McCarthy's gone?
No.
No.
Only because Jerry is loyal to him for some reason. And there has been talks last year when they had that stupid play when they hiked the ball and Zeke, I think, went like not even a yard. And they were like, oh, this, that. Yeah. No, I mean, even when Dak made a mistake, Jerry stood by his side. I do respect the loyalty in backing up your players, but solely for that fact, I don't see him going anywhere, and I don't see Jerry shopping out another coach.
Let me just swing Mr. Bill Belichick over here for a possibility. Oh, okay.
No way.
All right.
I think Vrabel he has a better chance than Belichick.
David.
I mean, I have to go with Sirianni too. I can't see. I mean, there's no way it's Stefanski or D'Amico Ryans. They just did great things with rosters that weren't supposed to, or the Browns were kind of supposed to, but then they lost like everybody that had arms and legs on the team and somehow still made the playoffs. So he's not out. There's rumors about Mike Tomlin being out, and I can see if he has another mediocre year, because the Steelers are, we've been mediocre for several years now. We either get to the playoffs or just miss out. That's not good enough. Eventually, they want to get back to the Super Bowl. They're not making a move yet, though. That organization loves him, and as you guys, like I stated earlier, we haven't had 3 coaches since 1970. They're very loyal. If Tomlin don't want to leave, he's not leaving. Sirianni's the one for me. It's a little hard to picture that because they just went to a Super Bowl last year. But the way he handled the team, it's obvious there's a lot of dissension now. I saw something earlier that said A.J. Brown wiped all references to the Eagles off of his, Twitter or X page, whatever. So if they get bounced first round to the Bucs, Sirianni's on the hot seat for sure.
Iceman.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Sirianni is really the only one. And it does all come down to how they perform on Monday night. And yeah, like again, it's crazy to say for a team that started 10-1. Halfway through the season, you're looking and they're going back to a second straight Super Bowl, and he's potential coach of the year. And now, like, the way that they've just ended the season, like, to have that big a drop off from the previous 18 months, there has to be question marks, right, over how he's handled the organization. There needs to be question marks over Jalen Hurts, how he stepped up and what he's doing to lead the team as well. But Sirianni's always going to be the one that gets it. So I think, yeah, if anyone is going to get fired for losing in the first round, it's likely Sirianni.
Nice. Will, you want to comment on anyone?
I'm going to stay away from the Eagles. I mean, I can see Sirianni, but I'm wearing a Dallas jersey and they're our biggest rivals, so I'll stay away from that. But I'm going to kind of twist this just a little bit, kind of like Mark did. I like that. Is to David, do you think that if the Steelers lose this weekend, Tomlin's gone by Monday?
No, there were rumors, and I was looking into it as well, of Tomlin being gone, or, them parting ways at the end of the season when, we were when we lost to, who was it? The Cardinals and I don't know, some other team that only had like 2 wins at the time that we should not have lost to. And nobody in the organization, inside the organization itself, had any doubts that Tomlin was sticking around. he brought them right back. Made the hard choices. Who else would have gone with Mason Rudolph over Kenny Pickett and then left him in? That's a Tomlin thing. So I don't think Tomlin's gone. I think, again, though, if he has another mediocre year where we, are right in the middle of the pack, I could see the rumblings starting to get a little bit more. But, we switched coordinators in the middle of the season. He snuck us into the playoffs. I just don't see it happening.
Okay.
All right.
I do think, though, that the Chargers should take advantage of all these coaches out here, and I think they should snatch up Belichick, make Vrabel their defensive coordinator, make Bieniemy their offensive coordinator, and wreck the AFC West. I'm just saying.
Wow.
Wow.
The owner of the Chargers right here.
All right.
Listen, when has Brady or Belichick ever had an athletic quarterback? That was why him and Brady worked. I think it was the same thing. Belichick is a great mind. Brady, I can name 50 more athletic quarterbacks than Tom Brady. He was a
his
genius.
IQ was off the charts.
He could pick apart a defense with his mind more than and rip them apart, that way. But he was never an athlete. Stick Belichick with Herbert, somebody who could sling it. Oh, and Bieniemy in there with that offense, Vrabel fixing up the defense because he's a defensive coach. That's the dream team right there.
All right. Only time will tell on that one. Hey, let's jump into our wild card weekends. Look, we're going to be discussing the games and everything. And look, it's one reason why we got Iceman here is to discuss some of these betting lines and player props and everything. So we'll start with the first game, 4:30 AFC Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. Joe Flacco's magical run. Does Amari Cooper have another big game in store in this one? That's going to be an interesting. I want to hear from Ice. Rookie sensation CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, and Coach of the Year candidate maybe DeMeco Ryan, the new cornerstones of the Houston Texans. Browns are favored by 2 the last time I checked, and the over and under is 44.5. Iceman, lead us off, man.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams played week 16. That was the game that Amari Cooper went for 265 yards. So it's very realistic that, he could do something similar. I think that the Texans and Ryan, they make some changes to make sure that doesn't happen again. But it is the one that, the over-under at 44.5, I think is an absolute smash. Like it's one of my favorite lines of the entire weekend. Just simply because everyone I've seen online talking about, this Texans offense, going up against the Browns defense. The Browns defense, everyone has kind of coming out on top. The Browns defense haven't actually been great away from home. Like their difference in how they play in Cleveland and how they're playing on the road is huge. They're giving up. The average they gave up this season is 21.5 points per game. But at home, they're only giving up 14 points per game. On the road, they're giving up almost 30. And CJ Stroud in Houston, he's averaging, the Texans are averaging 25 points per game. I think they put up 20 plus points. Their line is at 21.5. And I love that line. I think they score 22, 23, 20. They're at 20. You can get plus 150 on them to score 25 points. And I love that. And I definitely think, whether they win the game or not, I'm not 100% sure. But the Browns have struggled on the road. And the games that they've won on the road, especially recently, they beat Baltimore 33-31. They beat the Colts 39-38, and they beat Houston, which I mentioned, 36-22. So they can score points. I don't think there's a problem with the Browns offense and Flacco finding, and Njoku's been huge for them since he came back. So yeah, I mean, who wins the game, I would love to see CJ Stroud put on a show, throw for 300 yards and get the win. But I definitely, that over 44.5, I feel like is a lot lower than it should be. And I think it's that low because of the Browns defense. But like I said, like if it was the other way around in Cleveland, yeah, that line would kind of be in jeopardy for me. But in Houston, I love that spot.
David.
Yeah, I like just about everything he said there. The only note that I'd say is that CJ Stroud wasn't in that game when they beat them in Houston. That was in
and
Houston.
They still put up and they still put up 22 points.
22.
With
The
Case
other
Keenum,
thing is, I think they had 2 takeaways in that game or 3. The safest quarterback touchdown to interception ratio all season has been CJ Stroud. Flacco, that's where they're going to lose this game, in my opinion, is Flacco's turnovers. He's been great since he's been back other than the turnovers, but he's still averaging like 3 or 4 a game. That's ludicrous. That defense is keeping them in it, and because he's putting up big numbers, everybody's like, oh, Joe Flacco. No. It's this defense that was doing it for them. But on the road in Houston, a fired-up Houston team who nobody expected to be here, give me Houston all day. I do like the over as well. I place it somewhere around 47 or 48 myself.
Mark.
I really don't know who's going to win this game. I think what Flacco's doing is impressive. I'm with Ice. I like the over on this game, but I think this game is a perfect opportunity to tease the Houston spread up a little bit and the over down a little bit and pair them together. Do like a over 40 with plus, say, 6.5 for Houston.
Will, who you got?
I'd say Cleveland. I like the way Flacco's playing. I mean, Ice had great points that they are on the road and they're different. Cooper has to go ham in order for them to win, I think. If he doesn't, I think that's going to be – I don't want to say that's a difference maker, but I think that was a significant contributing factor in their last win when he went was over 200 yards, 260 yards. Mm-hmm. But I agree with everybody else. I like the over on this game.
So I like the Texans. I'm taking them +2. I'm projecting it outright to win the game and everything. But after all we're talking about, this is everybody's. A lot of people is going to be taking the over and everything, and it sets it up for the under. And that's the thing. It's like this is the playoffs. This is when they're battling and everything and stuff like that. And those defenses, look, Texas defense ain't bad either and everything. So that's my only worry and stuff like that everybody's going to be betting on that over. And then what happens? Hey, if the money's all there, what ends up happening? So that's my only concern.
Yeah. My other thing that I like with the over is, especially with Flacco, with all these turnovers, that's short fields, that's points. That's one of the big things. And if Cleveland keeps, because even on the away games, Cleveland doesn't, they let up a lot of points. They're still getting their interceptions and stuff. And that's why they're letting up a lot of points is, short fields. They're keeping up because they're giving their offense short fields. All those short fields equals points.
All right. Next game, AFC. Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know what the weather is going to be, and it kind of scares me on my pick on this one. Will the Chiefs look like they have been, or does Mahomes and Kelsey turn into the playoff Mahomes and Kelseys? Look, Miami, we all know the injury plague that's going on with them and everything. Who's going to be in the game? Who's not going to be in the game? Chiefs, -4.5, over and under 43. Iceman, lead us off again, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really like anything in this game. And not just simply for the fact that I hate betting on the Chiefs as a Chiefs fan anyway. Like I'm going to have enough stress watching this game as it is. But I mean, we talked about this on Playing with House Money back in week 9. These two teams played each other in Germany, and it was Tyreek against the Chiefs, first game against them. This was going to be a shootout. It was 21-14. Neither quarterback threw for 200 yards. It was not the game. Chiefs ran out 21-0 at halftime and then didn't do anything. That was either the start of their run or in the middle of when they just didn't put up any points in the second half for like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. But with the weather, you kind of looking at, this is going to be another one where, I don't see it being the shootout that everyone wants it to be. I do think Tyreek has to be a big part of the Miami offense. I mean, he is virtually unguardable when he plays to his potential. But yeah, I feel like this is definitely a running game, and Pacheco, he has to be the catalyst for this offense for the Chiefs. If he has to get going if they're going to do anything. I would like to think if these Chiefs have played in this kind of weather before. It's not the first time they're playing in the cold, and everyone talks about the Dolphins when they play in this kind of weather. I don't think they've won. I think they've played 3 games where it's been anywhere near this cold, and they haven't won any of them. But I don't think that means really anything. I think there's more to be said for it being Tua's first playoff game, and how he handles himself in the cold in that situation. But yeah, I think Pacheco's line from a rushing perspective is at 65. And I think that's kind of, he goes well over that. And yeah, dependent on, what you get out of Mostert and A-Chain, I don't, what they've proven to do this season, Mostert's, touchdown leader. So I think this does go run heavy. Whether it goes anywhere near the 44, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of will probably stay away from this from a betting perspective, apart from the Pacheco line. And like I say, when some of the A-Chain rushing lines come out, I'll probably take those as well. But yeah, I think it'll be run heavy. And yeah, I mean, I don't like the 4.5 spread in Chiefs' favor. I was hoping it was at 3.5 the other day, and I was hoping that a lot of people had seen a lot of people, taking the Dolphins at plus 3.5, and I wanted more people to do that so that the line got down to 2.5 and closer to 1.5, and the weather's caused it to go the other way. But yeah, I mean, I like Kansas City to win the game. I just don't know if they cover 5 points.
Mark.
I think Kansas City covers. I like the under in this game. I agree with Iceman. I think it's going to be a lot of running. I read somewhere a stat that Tua in games where the weather is under 45 degrees, he's 0-4. Also, you have Waddle and Mostert coming back from injury. Every hit they take is going to hurt that much more with the weather. So I wonder if they last the whole game or not. Tyreek has been banged up for the last half of the season. I just don't see a way where they go into Kansas City with that weather and beat them.
David.
I like the under in this one. They scored 35 when everybody was fully healthy, going back and forth. As far as prop bets, if Mostert's playing, I like an anytime touchdown for Mostert. He's their go-to guy, hands down. I kind of like the Dolphins only if all of their stars are playing. I will take Tua, Waddle, Mostert, and A-Chain over a distracted Travis Kelce any day of the week. I'm sorry, but that offense has just disappointed. Pacheco has surprised me. And we just seen the Ravens run all over the Dolphins. But the Chiefs aren't the Ravens. I'm sorry. As far as a running game. Now they're okay. They're good, but they're not the Ravens. Dolphins aren't going to get ran all over. They're going to have to throw the ball. And I don't know if they have the firepower to keep up with the weapons that the Dolphins have. This is a stay away as far as betting the game, though, for me as well. It's a toss-up for me.
Will.
I see Kansas City covering the line, 4.5. That's as far as I would go because we really need to think, and I would say I'm an expert better, but -30 for any human being is cold. It's painful, regardless if you're from South Florida or from Canada. It's cold. So I don't know where this game could go. I think that although Miami is injury riddled, I think the weather is going to have so much of an impact on this game that if somebody was like, "Oh, are you betting that game?" I wouldn't touch it. If I say who's going to win, I would say Kansas City because they were more accustomed. But that would really be as far as I would go because the -30, being from Long Island, New York, I felt it. It hurts. It hurts when you catch the ball. It hurts when you run. It hurts. So you got to think, Mostert, I'm sorry, Tyreek Hill with their ankles. I mean, those injuries are gonna hurt because you're in the cold. So I would definitely have to go with Kansas City covering the spread, but I wouldn't say that it was going to be like a high scoring game or it's going to be a blowout on either side. And I like what David said, a distracted Travis Kelce.
Well, I like the Chiefs to cover. Here's the thing about this game. I think on this game, I'm betting under on everything. That just under usually wins majority of the time, especially in an environment like this. The only over I might take, and someone needs to tell me if their line is out on it, is what is Tyreek's reception yardage? Is it out?
87.
All right,
86 and a
I'm
half.
taking over on that, and here's the reason why. Okay, look, they don't need long passes or anything like that. Just throw the ball underneath, maybe even hand the ball off and everything. But here's the one thing about weather like this. Look, when the receiver knows what direction he's going, and defensive players are having to back up and they don't know and take one bad step, look, we all know what Tyreek can do with his twitchy little self and everything. So that would be the only over I'm taking. And maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but look, that's the one line I do like.
No, I think I agree. It's actually only 83.5 on DraftKings, which is even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think obviously this is a game like Tyreek himself has obviously been distracted recently. He had the fire that happened at his house, so his mind has not been completely 100% on this game, but he's going back to his house. You know, like he won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I know he has a lot of respect for the organization and for Coach Reid and for Mahomes, but he wants to go in there and prove a point, regardless of how he does it. So I do like his over. He will. I think injuries. I know we talk about them, but I think you will have to drag Tyreek Hill off the field, kicking and screaming, if he doesn't want to play a snap. He will want to play every offensive snap in that game, and he will want to make a point. But yeah, so I like that. I do like that over.
All right, so I'm going to end with this on the look. Chiefs is going back to Kansas City. He knows how to play in cold weather. He's played in there. Maybe not -30, but he's played in cold weather games there, so he knows what to expect in these games and everything. So that's the one thing that I do like about it. Next game, we're going to Sunday, NFC. Green Bay Packers against the beloved Dallas Cowboys. Packers and Jordan Love. Hey, they're on a nice run, ready to take down the high-powered Cowboys. Or are these the same playoff Cowboys? One and done. Cowboys are -7. The over and under on this is 50.5. I'm going to lead off with you on this one.
The biggest thing about this game is that the Cowboys are home. Cowboys play completely different from home to on the road. Packers and the Cowboys, since December 31st, 1967, are both 4-4 in their last 8 postseason meetings. This is a tiebreaker. I think that with Mike McCarthy calling the plays and showing how that has worked with Dak in the offense, I do foresee the Cowboys taking this one. Would I say covering the spread at a touchdown? I hope so, but I don't know. Under 50, over 50, I think because they really very rarely do they score anything less than 30 points. Very rarely. I think it's only a
Especially
handful
like
of
you
weeks.
said at home.
Especially at home.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, like, again, that's the biggest factor in this entire conversation, because the Cowboys play the best when they're at home and they're healthy. Martin's coming back. You got Parsons, you got D-Law, you have Pollard, who hasn't really put up too much, but I'm hoping he surprises me. You got Brandon Cooks, who's cooking really hot right now. CeeDee Lamb, as we spoke earlier. I mean, Dak Prescott, everybody said that he was going to have the most interceptions this year. And he said to everybody preseason that he was not going to see 10. And I think he's at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He has 9 interceptions on the year. And he has 36 touchdowns. I mean, those are MVP numbers. If he can keep the pressure under wraps, then I think the Cowboys do come out over a touchdown.
Iceman.
Yeah, I mean, I agree exactly with what Will has said. Like they're averaging 37 plus points a game in the last 5 home games, I think, and you know, that's that momentum, the numbers that Dak and this offense have put up over the last few weeks, I think is going to be way too much for the Green Bay for this Green Bay team. I don't mind this Green Bay offense. Like, they're a young offense. Jordan Love, obviously, in his first season. You've had Christian Watson that's been in and out of the side, not really got himself a good run. But, you know, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, you know, with the 2 kind of guys at running back, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, who have been around the block with this team, I think it's a really nice mix that they have on offense. And I do think they'll get back to the playoffs again next season if they, you know, all stay healthy. But, you know, I don't think they discredit themselves in this game. I do think they go in and they put up a decent show in there, you know. But, you know, this Dallas defense doesn't give you 30 points a game, and that's what they need to compete, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think the touchdown spread is, I would be on the Dallas side of it. It's playoffs. I don't like going anywhere near these big spreads, certainly when it's, you know, 7.5 and above. Like,
yep.
But I do like the over for that reason. I think, like I say, I think Green Bay puts up 20, maybe 25 if they have a good day. But I also think Dallas, I think Dallas puts up well over 30. And really dependent on what CeeDee Lamb does, they could put up 40.
Rich, before, I'm sorry, I don't. Before, but it's also one a big thing here is that McCarthy is facing his old team. Does that have an effect? That's a question I have for people who are not Cowboys fans.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm going to start off by saying I definitely think Dallas wins this game. I'm not confident in going with the spread. I do think the home versus away thing is getting blown a little out of proportion. I think it's a little more of who the quality of opponent that they played on the road versus at home. I mean, on the road, they played Buffalo, they played Miami, they played San Francisco. At home, you're getting the Giants, you're getting the Commanders. They just played Detroit. That was a close game at home. They played, I think it was Seattle, was a 45 to or 41 to 30 something game. Like,
yeah, they put up 30 on the Eagles as well, though.
Yeah.
And I know
we've all seen what the Eagles have done towards the end of the season.
I do get it. It is a valid point, but I would just say, would you put this Green Bay defense on the side of the 49ers and the Bills, or closer to the Commanders, the Giants? Like, where would you put them? I would probably have them somewhere in the middle, to be perfectly
in the middle.
honest.
Exactly. And that's why I'm not sure on the 7-point spread. If it was like 4 or 5, I'd probably take Dallas in the spread. I'm not comfortable giving 7. I do think, what's the over on the game? Over under
7.
50.5.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
50.5.
50.5.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd probably lean towards the over there. But I probably stay away from the game completely, to be honest.
David.
But I do think Dallas wins the game. I don't think there's a question there.
Yeah, I'm staying away from all these traditional lines and overs unders for this game. I think Love is the X factor for me. He has so many different weapons. If he can keep the ball in his own team's hands, and the connection he's getting with all these young guys. I mean, we ran through some of their names, but he still has Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft. He's spreading it around more than what he doesn't have a CeeDee Lamb, is what I'm saying. But I would take a lot of the props in this game. I'd take a look at those. I expect this to be a high scoring game. I'd smash some overs in this one. I don't think CeeDee Lamb is coverable, but I think Love can keep it close because he has more targets to throw to than Dallas does. Dallas has CeeDee Lamb, Cooks. That's really it in the passing game. Pollard needs to step up big time, I think. I'm leaning Dallas as far as, just taking this game straight up, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win. I think you brought up a good point with McCarthy being with the Packers for so long. Regardless of, if you change some stuff up, you have tendencies. There are tendencies you have when you coach, and they know those tendencies. So I think they put up a fight. I think Dallas takes it, but I think it's close.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I'm taking the over, but I'm taking Green Bay to cut on their plus. So I'm not going to go too much deep in it, but I'm going to end it with that and everything. So I'm going to start with David on this next one. Look, another Sunday game, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Do the Steelers really belong in the playoffs? I'm sorry to say that, David. I'm just throwing that out there at you. Who will be the QB playing the game? And Tomlin proving why he might be the better long coach behind Belichick and everything, okay? Which Josh Allen shows up? Is it Mr. Throw the ball to the other team all the time? Bills are 9.5 favor, and the over-under on this one is 35.5. David, give it up.
First off, I want to say it's a travesty that we don't get to see TJ Watt versus Josh Allen. I think that would be one of the most physical quarterbacks versus one of the best defensive players in the league. That is what I was excited for this game. I actually have a mom and a brother who are both Bills fans, so this is a personal game for us this week. I think the weather
in the same house?
Huh?
All in the same house this weekend?
No, they live in Pennsylvania and Connecticut now, so we're separated, but that's probably a good thing because there'd be knives and who knows what else. But no, I think the weather helps the Steelers keep this one closer than what people are expecting. I think everybody's disrespecting the Steelers. We still got to the playoffs. We're still an NFL team. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the Steelers are the kind of team, and it aggravates the hell out of me as a Steelers fan, who plays to the level of their opponents entirely too much. They will play bad against a bad team and play good against a good team. Even whether win or lose, they'll keep it tight, except for against that San Fran team at the beginning of the season. That was a complete blowout. It was horrible. I will say I'm staying away from this game because there's too much personal stuff in there for me. The weather alone makes this a running game for me, which means lower scoring. The over-under at 35.5, that's low enough as it is, but I think it could still go under that even. And I will say that Lamar Jackson hopes we lose because he hasn't beaten the Steelers since 2019.
Iceman.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I do think with everything that the +9 for the Steelers is a little bit disrespectful. I said it in the last one. Like, I would not be wanting to take the Bills at -9 to cover. That's not to say money line, there's probably no value. I do think the value is in the Steelers +9, +9.5 if you can get it. That line, that point line is coming down because of the weather all the time. It started the day, I think, at 36.5, and on DraftKings right now it's at 33.5. So I think that probably comes down a couple more points before the game kicks off. But yeah, I just don't. I'm staying away from it, but for this reason, not the reasons for David. You don't know which Josh Allen is going to turn up. There's everything going on, similar things going on in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs and all of this stuff in the media, similar to there is with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I don't really buy it so much in Buffalo, to be honest. but Diggs does need to step up. But I don't think the weather is here for this to be the game where Diggs necessarily does that. I think this will be a case of James Cook and Josh Allen versus Najee and Jalen Warren, and which of those running backs can actually keep the ball in their hands in this weather. Both of these teams have, all of these players have turned the ball over this season. So I think that's what wins the game on either side is who can actually keep their hands on the ball. But yeah, I think it's closer. I think it will be closer than the 9-point spread. So I would take the Steelers on that. But yeah, I just think the Bills have the nous. Like, they've been there, they've done that. And yes, Josh Allen might throw a pick or two if he tries. But I think when it comes down to it, the one play I will take is Josh Allen anytime touchdown, because being a running game, if he gets in the red zone, James Cook's not getting the ball. It's going to be Josh Allen. So yeah, I like it. Probably depends how low it goes. If it goes to 30, then that I don't think I'm not taking the under. I think I'll probably stay away from the over-under because of that, but I don't see it being hugely high scoring.
Mark.
I think David, when he led off, said it perfectly. Like, TJ Watt hurts them a lot not being in this game, right? Without TJ, I don't see them winning this game. Ice, I want to ask you, I agree with you. I think that total is going to keep dropping. At what point would you jump on the over? Is there a number you'd like?
Not really. I probably, if it goes to 29.5, I would probably take it there, the over. That's when I would switch.
Yeah.
Because I think they probably have, they've definitely got at least a touchdown or so in them. And I think it goes back to the point that David made earlier about, with a rushing game like this and punting in this wind, I think there will be a lot of short fields and a lot of field goals. So I know Coach definitely, with the book he's on, likes to take his over 3.5 field goals. I think that's an absolute smash in this game. So it will be a lot of, 9-6 at halftime, 18-20, so 30, I think 18-12, something like that. So I think if it goes down to 29.5, it could be, if you could only see field goals in this game.
Yeah.
I think that's a very realistic possibility.
I was right around the same, right around 30. I feel like the Steelers will probably have like a broken coverage touchdown to Pickens, like a long play they'll score. And Josh Allen's always good for a turnover here or there. And if it happens in the red zone, that's more points. But I think Buffalo's going to score with James Cook and Josh Allen running the ball a lot. I think they're going to put up at least 20 points, I think.
Yeah,
I will say that I think that as far as Iceman's point about turnovers, Cook, and I wouldn't really trust Warren that much either, because as electric as he is, he definitely has a tendency to take off before he fully has the ball in his hands. But Najee historically has been safe with the ball. I think he had some kind of record number of snaps before his first fumble. And Josh Allen, also, we know about his turnover, problems. So I think if they can't hold on to the ball, again, that just favors the Steelers. That goes to the Steelers and gives them a better shot.
Yeah, I'd be looking at all props on kickers, field goals for the game. Those are probably going to be the ones I'd be more comfortable with. I don't know if I haven't looked in a while and stuff like that, but is there even a prop on if there's no passing touchdowns and it's all rushing touchdowns? That would be something interesting too. I don't see a passing touchdown happening in this game. It could be rushing and just field goals, and then that's how I'm looking at it. Now I don't know what to do on the over and under. That's with this game and everything, but I do expect the Steelers to cover the spread. But I do see the Bills pulling it out. So I apologize there, David. At the bottom of my heart, I really do apologize.
I love it. We like being the underdog. I'm a 100% okay with that. I'm a Michigan fan too, and we embraced being the bad guy of the NCAA this year.
So
1,000%. I'm for it.
I'm a Raiders fan and stuff like that, and 9 times out of 10, I'm always picking the Raiders no matter what and everything. Are you 100% picking Steelers?
Oh, I already got my bet in. I did the playoff pick 'em, and I told Mark that if I do it, I'm still picking the Steelers at 14. They're getting the most points for me. I did it. Let's go.
All right. Hey, that's the way to roll, man. All right.
One last thing I
game.
wanted to ask was, are we going to see playoff Lenny again? He got a lot of usage at the end of that Dolphins game.
I did notice
that was getting behind the QB and pushing him from behind.
That too, but even the carries to run out the clock and I don't know.
I noticed that too, and I think that was the most carries he's had in a game this season, I want to say. So, you never know. I didn't look into his turnover history, so I don't know if he's safer with it than Cook is, but he might be the safer option. He's definitely a more bruising back. So,
Will, you got any 2 cents on this game?
I don't. I mean, I'm staying away from it, from all numbers, spread, money line, anything. It all depends on who shows up, meaning like Josh Allen. Which one is going to show up? It's too volatile.
Well, I'll tell you someone that ain't going to show up, and that's Gabriel Davis. All right. Monday night game. Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Bucks. Baker, Evan, and White are all gelling at the right time, and are they primed to take down the Eagles? Eagles are limping in the playoffs, injuries, kind of the same thing with Miami. The ego side of it too, based off what they've been dealing with and everything. Are they faltering at the wrong time? Does this affect them? Can they right the ship in this game in advance? Eagles -3. Last line I looked. Over and under on this is 43.5. Iceman.
Yeah, I mean, on playing with house money this year, I've been a big fan of Baker and what he's done with the Bucks from both a fantasy perspective and a betting perspective. And yeah, we've touched on it. I think the plus money line on Tampa Bay to win this game outright is huge. I really like it. My problem with that is every time I seem to back them to win, they don't turn up. And vice versa. Every time I kind of leave them alone is when they do turn up. I like I say, it's Monday night. I will very likely stay away from it. I would probably play player props in this game, not really the money line or the over under. But yeah, I mean, you can look at it like I really thought the Eagles were going to turn up in that last game, regular season game against the Giants, because I don't think you want to go into the playoffs the way they did, because it's so hard to just switch that form off. So hard, especially in a one and done game away from home, down in Tampa, where this Bucks, the Bucks crowd are going to, really make it difficult for them. It will be tough to see for the Eagles to come out of this with a win. And the fact that the Bucks are getting +3 as well, the fact that you get the push if it's a field goal they lose by, that's probably my favorite line. But yeah, I will play more of the player props in this one, and probably wait till Monday night to see how everything else has gone, just to see how that plays into what actually happens.
David.
Yeah, I think this game entirely comes down to how healthy is Baker Mayfield. If Mayfield, has rested a little, he comes in, he feels okay, and he can get through the whole game without being, sent to the sideline. I love the Bucks on the money line here. I think they're being disrespected coming. They have this team I said this from the beginning of the year. I made a bet that the Cowboys would win that division, and I specifically said it was because of this defense, the changes they made on the back end. They didn't replace any of them with anybody proven was going to hurt them. And Baker's going to take advantage of that. He has too many weapons not to. Evans and Godwin can feast against them. The running game hasn't really been great for them, but the passing game to the running back has been. So I think if Baker can, stay upright and stay on the field, it's the Bucks all day for me.
Mark.
I think if the Eagles win this game, it's going to be because DeAndre Swift has a monster game. Jalen Hurts, has he thrown a ball in practice yet? What's going on with A.J. Brown? He hasn't practiced at all. He's apparently deactivating his Twitter/X account, removing Eagles stuff from his Instagram. Is he even going to be at the game? I don't know what's going on with the team. So I'm probably leaning the Bucs. I took the Mike Evans in that pick 'em pool. I think they're going to score points. I think the Eagles can win the game, but they're going to have to run the ball and run the ball really well.
Will.
Eagles are going to implode. On top of all the facts everybody said, the Eagles can very easily just lose this game simply because of the camaraderie in the locker room. With A.J. Brown, your WR1 taking all of the team stuff off of his socials, deleting his X account, the Eagles are just going to implode. And Baker's good enough, and the Bucs are good enough to take advantage of that and beat the Eagles 100%. And just like I said, they came into the playoffs, or they came into this weekend playing the way that they did against the Giants.
All right. So I think the Eagles going to pull it off. I think they do enough to squeak by and stuff like that. I would like Tampa to win and stuff like that. I just right now I know everything's going for Tampa Bay. Everything's going against the Eagles. Look, I see the Eagles covering this -3. Now, as far as the over and under, man, I almost want to hit the under, and I might be totally wrong for this, just because of everything that's going on this. You know, what to expect from the Eagles. It could be a low-scoring game because of all the trauma that's going over there, but they do enough to win the game. So I would take the Eagles spread, and I'm going to take the under. If you, I know probably a little shaky there, but I'm taking the under on that. With that being said, guys, Iceman, David, is there any player props out there you guys want to put? Oh, go ahead, David.
You missed the game. Lions and Rams.
Oh, man, I sure did. I apologize about that, man.
Mark was waiting for it. I could see him down
there. He wore his jersey for it.
Well, you know what threw me off is because when I started out with the Cowboys game, I initially skipped the Eagles first. So I went back up there to cover that. Totally forgot to come back. All right, let's close it out with the Rams and the Detroit Lions. Probably the most story-filled playoff game this weekend. Both QBs playing their former teams and have all this firepower around both of them. Puka Nacua ready to become a playoff superstar. Already broke a rookie record for the season. Will he start on a run for breaking any playoff records? Lions are -3. The over and under is 51.5. Mark, I got to lead it off with you, right?
Rams money line over. Let's go. Yeah, big storylines. This was the big trade. Goff for Stafford, all those draft picks helped build Detroit to get them back where they are right now. Apparently, Detroit banned Stafford Lions jerseys for the game. They're not allowed to bring them into the stadium. So
I hate when they do that.
That's another one. But no, I feel like we're really gonna win this game. Our secondary is what scares me with this team. Anybody, we can't close games because teams can just come back and pick us apart on the secondary. But I think we'll be able to get enough pressure on Goff to make him make a couple mistakes, and I think that'll be the difference in the game.
Iceman.
I think we get the shootout. I really hope we get the shootout that everyone wants. Everything kind of points that way. Both of these teams, I mean, I know we mentioned it right at the top of the show about Detroit maybe being a little banged up on offense. If Sam Laporta doesn't play, that's a huge piece of their offense that doesn't play. But I think Amon-Ra and Jared Goff, get it together. They've got enough with Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield to keep you guessing as to who's going to get the ball. They can, but I think it's going to be close. I think the 3 spread is probably about right. I just don't know which way it's going to go. But I do like the over. It is the highest over of the weekend at 51.5, but I think rightly so, given the weapons that we see on display. I think I will take a lot of player props in this one, a lot of the overs for a lot of the receivers. I would like to see, is Pucker going to go for 160 and break DK's record? I wouldn't have. It's going to take a lot, right, to do that. But this is one of those games where I think it really depends. I think the Rams are pretty solid. They're going to put up the numbers. You know, Matt Stafford's going to throw for 275 and put up a couple of touchdowns. You've got Kyron Williams as well, who, like you said, Frito has been absolutely phenomenal. This, certainly the second half of this season. So that's another, he's I think the X factor that is something that, Detroit really are going to have to rely on over the top. Someone like Jameson Williams, 60, 70-yard TDs, or Josh Reynolds. One of those kind of guys actually has got to step up and fill the void that probably be left by Sam Laporta not playing. So I probably favor the Rams to take it. Certainly with the +3 that you get on the Rams right now, I think I like that. But yeah, player props I think is where I'm going to go in this one for a nice parlay.
All right, David. If on the drive back from Lubbock today, I could have swore I heard that Laporta was at practice. Am I wrong on that? And then on top of that, give me what your thoughts on this game.
I don't know if you were wrong on that. I have not heard anything. I'm looking it up.
You'll discuss that. If anybody else can look up and see if that was true.
So it says he was a full participant in practice, but he is still considered questionable.
I think he said, I think I'd seen him say that if he does play, he's going to play with like a big knee brace if he does play. And I think if I was the like it's one of those, right? Like, if you go out and you lose this game by 3 points and he sits, then you're going to look back on it and say he should have played. They play him and he wins, but he gets injured and he's now out for the rest of the playoffs. Should you have risked it? It's as a player, you want to play in these games, though.
I think that's a lot of what it is, especially with that atmosphere up there and the way they run that team. They want to play for that coach. I don't know why his name is escaping me right now.
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell. I want to play for him. Like, he inspires me to want to go and play, throw on some pads and play. That would be a bad idea, but he inspires me. I have the Rams personally winning the game. I think the main differences are the Sam Laporta injury. I also think the Lions messed up. I like that they have two running backs that they can kind of split stuff between. But I think when Montgomery went down earlier in the year and we saw what Gibbs could do. I was thinking DeAndre Swift for some reason. What Gibbs could do in his absence, they should have kept rolling with that. And because he had a head of steam, he was fantastic. I think top 5 or top 3 running back all the weeks that Montgomery was out. And I think they should have kept rolling with that. So I think Kyron Williams can outperform both of those two together because they don't have one guy with a full head of steam. And Kyron Williams has been insane. I like the over, and I like the Rams to win on the money line.
Will.
It's hard to go last because everybody says all good points. I mean, I think this game's definitely going to be a mystery. I think both teams are going to keep us guessing. They both have some good weapons. I like Dan Campbell. I like Sean McVay. I want to see Detroit win. I do.
All right. I think Rams got everything rolling right going into the playoffs and stuff, and they carry that momentum. Look, I'm taking the Rams +3, win outright. It's a high over/under, the highest of the week, like we said, but I'm taking it. You know what, Iceman, you made a point on the DK Metcalf playoff record. I would like to know what the prop, if they got on that. I would actually put some money down on that, on Puka doing that. Just throw $5 at it.
You'd get great great odds on that. Puka's line is 77. So for him to go 160, I don't even think you would get it. The highest they go is like 150. For him to go 150 plus yards is plus 800. So if you put $5 on it, you'd win 45, or you'd get 45 back.
Got it. Look, I like the Rams. Like I said, with that being said, look, now we finally discussed all the games. We discussed Mark's team. We discussed David's team, Kansas City, Will's team. Hey, before we end, player props. Is there anything out there that you're liking there, Iceman?
I think, one of the points that David made about Green Bay and in that game, what I've noticed is because they don't have an alpha, right? They don't have the CeeDee Lamb. And in that game, CeeDee Lamb's prop, we just talked about Puka, right? Like Puka and Cooper Kupp, they're both around the 70 yard mark because they're both, Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver one, but Puka's getting more targets, more yards every week. CeeDee Lamb's line is 100.5. That's insane for that to be a line. But all of the Green Bay receivers, their lines will be in the 40s and, low to mid 40s. And I think the point about Jordan Love spreading it around and throwing to all these guys is that what I love about these receiving yards props for these receivers that are less than 50 yards, you can hit these in one catch. All it takes is, Jaden Reed's line, I think, is at 48.5, and his will probably be the highest of the Green Bay receivers. So I do like a few of those. The Pacheco rushing line I mentioned, Najee's rushing line, I really like those. The other one that stands, I do also, going back to the very first game we talked about, CJ Stroud and Joe Flacco, both of their passing yards. Because I think that's also a similar kind of shootout I think we get there as the Rams-Detroit game. So I do like both of them to go over. Yes, you can probably take Flacco for an interception, pair that with Josh Allen, maybe. But yeah, I like both of them, the passing yards as well, because I think that one, like you said, high-scoring game potentially there. And I think both teams are going to have to throw the ball. I don't think they're really relying on Jerome Ford and Devin Singletary in the run game too much. Certainly not to win them a playoff game. I think they both head coaches are going to put the ball in their QB's hands in that one.
David, you got any that I know we were talking about earlier? You want to wait until the day, but you got any that you're interested in?
Not really. Like I said, I usually do wait till the day of, check on the last minute injuries and the weather, specifically this weekend with a few of these games. But based on weather alone, I'm hitting unders in the Steelers game. I'm hitting unders in the KC game for the most part, and I'm doing overs in the Dallas and the Detroit game. I probably will, if I could find it, sprinkle a little bit on Nakua breaking that record. Just the dude is. I was against Puka the entire season as everybody was talking about him. And then I saw him, I actually watched one of the games with him, and I was like, wow, the dude is kind of ridiculous. So I'm all for it. Break that record, man. I will say on Will's side, I want to see the Lions win. Sorry, Mark. I like the Lions. I like their grit. They haven't been here in a while. But I'm still putting my money on the Rams to win. But I like what the Lions are doing. I like that they're here.
All right. We are an hour and a half into this show. All right. So I'm not going to spin this around. I'm not going to spin this around and close out every single one. But the one thing I am going to let Iceman promote himself one more time.
Yeah, find us Playing with House Money every Thursday at noon. It goes out on the Toilets to Titles network. If you're in the Gilded chat, there is a Playing with House Money betting site, betting chat. I know Mark puts some of his bets in there. So David, when morning of Saturday morning, Sunday morning, any props that you like that you play, absolutely. The more people we can get to post in there and start the chat, the better. But yeah, find us at PW_House Money on Twitter. There'll absolutely be some we'll put some free plays out there for everyone on Saturday morning and Sunday morning.
All right. Once again, look, if you haven't had a chance, I didn't give away any free entries because nobody commented what I said in the chat. If anybody in the chat is not in our playoffs, hit me up afterwards at Frito_Bandito_FF, and I will get you in with Mark, David, Will. Guys, look, once again, I appreciate you guys being on here. Once again, hit like, subscribe button, Patreon. Hey, come be part of the team and everything. We're giving drawings. We're giving away stuff all the time to our Patreon members. Gilded, look, we talk football all the time. Not only do we talk football, David, what else we got in there?
We got cards. We got football cards, occasionally memorabilia. We have all sorts of, in Gilded, all sorts of different conversations. Like Iceman said, we have a whole betting thread, and the NFL playoffs, NFL draft, the trip to Canton. We got so many different threads in there. It's not even funny. Plus just bullshit and just shooting the shit.
Mark, I know you guys are working on some stuff behind the scenes. You want to talk about that at all?
You talking about the dynasty rankings?
Yeah.
Yep. So they're putting together a dynasty team. They're going to have some rankings here. I'm just working behind the scenes, averaging it out and getting them all put together so we can get it out there for everybody.
All right, and if you
I
guys
say to take my rankings with a grain of salt, I just started Dynasty, but I joined the team because I love fantasy football. I've been doing this. I've never done Dynasty before, but I've been playing fantasy football since when we needed pen and paper to play it. So I'm ready for it. Let's go.
All right, so for all the members, all the future Title Tribe members that are going to be watching our shows and everything, if you guys ain't following, hey, these two below us, hey, new to the family, guys, love you guys being part of the family. Look, we're just growing and stuff like that to make sure that we're bringing the best content to everybody. I am your Frito Bandito. Will, I want you to end this show, but I want you to end this show by telling everybody what you are doing to make this a better team for all of us. And end it, please.
Yeah, for sure. Frankenstank. We have some surprises coming up next season. We are adding more teams. So if anybody would like to join that is watching this show, please be sure to hit us up or email us at toiletsofTitles@gmail.com. We are redoing the website. We have a ton of content coming out in the off season, and next season we are going to be also expanding our rival leagues, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure. I just don't know if we have 100% details on that. But Frankenstank, Gilded Chat, we have NFL Chat, we have Game Time, everything from top to bottom. All we do is talk football all day, every day. If you are interested, let us know. We're more than happy to send out the invite. Follow us on Twitter at Toilets of Title. And guys, have a great weekend, and let's go Cowboys.
Playoffs, baby.